Hey everyone, welcome to Kayan Al-Bashar Grand Central Station, because I haven't figured out a better name for the building yet. But anyways, before we get started with the building, I wanted to ask you guys, how are you guys doing? I usually say something along these lines in, well, what I call an intro, but to call it an intro is questionable. But anyways, yeah, how are you guys doing? Basically, the premise of this is I wanted to, from now on, if you guys allow it, to sometimes start the videos off with a question. And before you ask, yes, I would be the person to then ask you the meaning of life. Actually, that might be the question for the next video, if you guys again allow it. But yeah, how are you guys doing? I hope you are all doing alright. I do need to say that today's video, we're going to talk a little bit more about the building aspect. So it's not going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's ramble like the last video. I just looked at the last video, and besides being a Five Nights at Freddy's video, I also noticed that I didn't talk at all about the actual building. So there might have been a lot of questions, and then I just, I was a little bit too obsessed with the Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, it was still a fun commentary to record. I mean, it usually is when they get weird, and I just enjoy them even more. But anyway, so as for the building, so far around 80% of the Grand Central Station, I really should figure out a better name for it, but around 80% of the building so far is, if I'm correct, Moroccan style. I mean, the tower of the last video is Moroccan, I still don't know where. Actually, it might not even be Moroccan, it might be somewhere in Western Africa. But the tower that we are building now is Moroccan, and I know for certain because I also know actually I call it a tower, it's actually a minaret. But I know where it is located, I know the name of the mosque that it's attached to. Yeah, kudos to me for actually looking that up instead of just seeing an image and going with it blindly. I mean, I did try to look up the tower or where the tower is located from the last video, but I just couldn't find it. But anyway, the tower that we're building now, or actually the minaret that we're building now, is from the, and forgive my pronunciation, but I should probably put such a disclaimer on every time I try to pronounce a name, or actually just anything, even normal words. But the minaret that we're building now is from the Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca. I think it's also one of the most well-known mosques of Morocco. I don't know why the name didn't come to me for a few seconds, but yeah, I just really liked the tower. I'm going to call it a tower from now on because it doesn't really serve the purpose of a minaret here. Well, it does, but also doesn't. But I'm going more into that later. But the debate for this minaret slash tower was actually, do I want to make it taller than the central towers, or do I want to make it a little bit smaller so that the central towers would be the larger towers? In the end, I did go with it being not a lot larger, but significantly larger, just so that it has more of that flanking factor, which I usually do with my buildings. I wouldn't say it's like a tip for every type of building, but I usually, as you might have already noticed, place some kind of tower, some kind of decoration on the edges of a building, just so that I don't have the bare grid walls on the edges, and it just takes away that cube feel that some buildings might have, or at least could have. Not that there's anything wrong with building cubes, but I just don't like that look. And well, towers or just any kind of decorations on the edge help with that. Like, you can take away these central towers. Before you're wondering, no, I'm not going to do that. But if you take away the central towers and just have these towers on the edge, you still have a little bit of dimension to the building, even though the, central wall is blank. So that's basically thought process that goes behind like placing towers on the edges. And yeah, it's just also like, if a building feels blank, I always just add a tower. I don't know why. Well, I sort of do know why, but it's not usually, well, it's not always the case, but just adding a tower to it just gives a lot of height to a building without adding a lot of volume. But I've also noticed that I just add a tower sometimes just because I like it. Not because the building needs height or something, it's just like, I feel like adding a tower today. This is not really how this tower came to be, but yeah. For now, actually, like, I just noticed this, but if you look at the Grand Central Station, I really should find a new name for it, but if you look at it from the flooded ziggurat, it's just a sea of towers. We are actually also not going to be able to finish the Grand Central Station today, because, well, I have asked you guys, I think 3 times over the span of the last 3 months, so yeah, every month I asked, but anyway, so I asked you guys if you rather want to see everything, which meant more videos, but also that there's maybe a little bit less progress in videos, or if you guys want to see highlights. And even if I did go with highlights, I wouldn't be able to finish today's building, Grand Central Station, in today's video. Because, yes, we're going to add a massive dome. And I need to figure out the light, because all the windows that we've built so far with all the lattice work and such, that's probably going to pick up as a lattice. Let's just say all the woodwork that we've done with the windows so far. I mean, you do have light inside the building, but not enough, so I need to do something with the roof to actually bring light into the building. That was, if anyone can catch that mispronunciation, you are actually watching. If you didn't, then you're still fine. I mean, if I got like, let's say $1 for every time I mispronounce a word, I would probably be a millionaire by now. But anyway, so this is actually a pattern that is a little bit more difficult because it's round, or at least rounded. And so far, all the patterns that we have been building are square or triangular. I mean, the pattern that is on most of the tower is actually pretty easy with just like a cross section or crosses. And to make a rounded pattern, yeah, it's a little bit more difficult, especially if I want to really go with how the original tower, the pattern there is a little bit difficult to make in Planet Zoo, I would say. Because, well, we have a lot of large pieces, but to make small patterns or mosaics, it's a little bit difficult and usually involves a lot of pieces actually. Like, to make things smaller, usually you have to add more pieces than to make something large. But yeah, in the end it did work out. It's this is actually a part where I cut out a lot, because I think this took 3 hours to figure out how to do this. And to give, or to put that in perspective, usually the entire episode is 3 hours of work. And now 3 hours of work went into just the pattern or mosaic work that you see me try and fix now. Eventually I did go with another one, or at least not the one that you see me build right now, but eventually we will get to the actual one. So yeah, also to make, like, 3 hours doesn't sound like a lot of work, but there is of course a lot of research. Well, not like a total like huge amount of research, because sometimes I do wing it, but yeah, it's 3 hours of actual work, but usually a full day of just wandering around trying to figure out how things work. That sounds a lot deeper in a way than I meant it to be. But yeah, in the end, the tower, I'm really glad I went with a taller tower. Even though the tower is a little bit more slender, because, well, this tower is 8 meters wide and the central towers are 12 meters wide. So there is enough difference or variation between the towers. But I do imagine if I went for a smaller tower, it would have probably looked a little bit clunky, I would say. Or just, I don't know, like having the slender towers on the edges just gives the building a little bit more, in a way I would say grace or something like that. Like it makes it a little bit more elegant. Also, I really just like the tower. I like towers in general. Like, yeah, I'm not going to ever stop building towers. And yes, I know, again, the original is a minaret, but it doesn't really have that function in Grand Central Station. I mean, it can work in one way that minarets usually work. Again, forgive the pronunciation, but yeah, minarets usually, like, they summon people to, you know, attend sermons? I don't know, to attend mass or prayers. And here they will probably, let's say, announce when an airship is leaving or something. Usually, probably the airship is going to leave before you reach it because, let's face it, public transport, even in a fantasy land like Kayan Al-Bashar, will probably be horrible. Or at least it will feel horrible because public transport always feels horrible. But this is one part where I actually differed from the actual building or the actual Hassan II Mosque minaret, because in the actual tower, this pattern that I used also on the bottom part of the tower actually goes completely to the sides, or somewhat completely to the sides. And I just like the pointy edges that the frame or the pattern has, so I just went with that. So I changed it slightly. Also looking through like all the doors to find like, alright, which one can I use? Because I don't like pristine doors. I don't like pristine buildings actually. So it's still a little bit weird that so far this entire building, well actually not the entire building, but so far what we are building today is actually symmetrical. And I usually try to avoid that because, I mean, symmetrical buildings can look beautiful, but for me they also look sometimes, or most of the times, just too pristine. So yeah, that's just a personal preference. I don't like buildings to be like perfect and all that. I like to have that roughness to them, but I say this, I think, with every large build. But yeah, so as I said, we're not going to finish the building today, because otherwise it would have been a rush job and half of the things that I would still need to build you wouldn't see. And also, yes, we're going to add a massive dome because, well, I need to figure out a way to get light into the building. But also I just want to add a dome, because otherwise the roof is going to look very plain. But yeah, in the end, we are actually going to build where the doors or entrances / exits for the actual airships, or in this case the flying or hanging gondolas, because we don't have actual airships. And no, this isn't like, please give us airships. I think actually the one thing that I would really want from Frontier right now is stained glass. I have thought about this for basically this entire morning, but the glass that we do have is, well, very pristine first of all. It's also very modern. Like we do have those, I call them greenhouse glass, but we do have that, and I don't know, it just feels a little bit too pristine for me. So that's also a little bit of why I made all those woodwork windows, just because they have, again, that roughness to them, and the actual normal glass that we have in game, I just don't like. I want to be able to color the glass. So that, I mean, just imagine what people could do with colored glass. Imagine all the just beautiful churches we would be able to make, or all, like, just all those stained glass art pieces, or not art pieces, but just all the stained glass windows. Yeah, I really just want stained glass. I don't want, well, I want 1,000 things. I think you guys also want 1,000 things. But yeah, stained glass is certainly high on my list. But yeah, it's also useful in like Arabian / Islamic architecture. Yeah, I'm just trying to get stained glass. I don't know if anyone from Frontier watches these videos, but please, I want stained glass. Or at least colorable glass. Because I just want to make things with stained glass. Do I need a further explanation? Also, yes, the dome is, or the dome, yeah, this is a dome, I would say, is, I couldn't really see how the dome in the actual minaret looked like. It did have this ball shape. I don't know if it's actually a ball, but I did use the gold egg, as I call it, from the last video. But the actual dome had 3 of those, but they were all in decreasing size when you went up. But yeah, I tried to make them smaller. But then, you know, there's just a certain point where they just start not looking like balls or eggs anymore. So in the end, I just went with 2 because, I mean, 3 looked a little bit ridiculous, or at least 3 of the same size. And yeah, I wanted to also give like a pointy thing to the top, just to separate it a little bit further from the rest. I think I actually stick with the pointy edge. I actually forgot that I stuck with the pointy edge. I thought I removed it. Like, sometimes it's really helpful that I watch the footage while I'm doing this commentary, just so that I remember, oh wait, yeah, it's not that I am like completely oblivious after building it, but sometimes I just am building for so long that I start to forget some things. And yes, I'm just thinking of how am I going to make that massive dome, with it also bringing in some light to the building. And also, I want to quickly also talk about for the architecture styles, as I said, around 80% is Moroccan, or at least, to put it more general, if I'm wrong, because like the central towers, I have no idea where the tower or minaret is actually located. If you guys know, do let me know, but so far I don't really know that. But as I said, 80% is probably Moroccan, or at least West or Northwestern African. And then there's a little bit of Turkish actually, because the entrances, or at least the entrances that we built in the last video, are actually inspired by the entrances of the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul. So that's why those arches are also not the same as all the other arches, because they are actually taken from an actual building. However, I did spice up the entrances a little bit, because yeah, this is not in any way saying, oh, the actual entrance is bad, but I just found it too plain looking compared to all the towers and such. So if the entrance, or at least if I use the actual entrance, it would just be washed out between the rest of the building. Because I don't think you will disagree with me that the rest of the building is beautifully chaotic, I would say. So yeah, now to the entrances or exits for the actual, well, I say airships, but they are right now just for the hanging gondolas or flying gondolas. They have a name, but I'm horrible at remembering names. Like, I had to actually quickly look up if I was right with the Hassan II mosque, because I just thought I might have got the Hassan part wrong. Yeah, I had to quickly look that up. I usually look up names right before I start recording, just because they just go right through my head. They don't really stick. Like, I think if you ask me in the next video, I will have probably already forgotten. I mean, I remember how a thing looks completely, but then I forget the name. But anyway, so for the entrances slash exits slash just general openings for the hanging gondolas, yeah, I originally wanted to make it also into pieces. Like, I've built the towers, the windows, and the entrance to the actual station. But in the end, I actually went with one massive wall to actually fill up the entire side of the building, because I thought it would be a nice addition to have like some sort of like either greeting or like farewell spot, or it has an actual name, but I'm just going to call it like just a place where, if let's say, you know, you're saying farewell to a friend who's going to travel, or family member, or anyone, this is probably the place where you probably will do that. But yeah, I also wanted to bring back the what was the name actually? Again, like, this is just an example of like, I forget names very quickly. But vaulted ceilings. Sometimes it does get back to me. But yeah, I brought those back because I just really love them and like, because they're already in this build, I kind of give myself a free pass. However, I did build these a little bit different because I have no clue how I made it so that the grab on point for the gizmo or advanced move tool was on like the actual like beginning of the vaulted ceiling, or like the lowest point of that. But in the end, I basically made it into a vaulted ceiling, but just in a different way, or at least the way that I achieved it was different. I'm still really liking vaulted ceilings. I mean, you can do so much, and I mean, with the actual like central point, as you can see, or as you will see, it just looks so beautiful to hang like some kind of chandelier from that central point. And yeah, I'm sad to say I struggled a lot more with the chandelier than I should have. So, I mean, it was still fun to build. I was actually surprised that I was able to recolor the chains. So, why are we able to recolor the chains but we don't have stained glass? Yes, I'm going to be mad about that for 2 seconds. Yeah. This is really just me saying, please Frontier, give us stained glass, or at least give me stained glass. Yeah. I mean, just think of all these stained glass windows we could make. And I don't want to use, like in Planko we needed to use gemstones to make something look like stained glass. And I don't want to do that, although I did like the texture of those gemstones. Just because, again, they are rough. And I like rough parts. Why did that come out of my mouth? I like rough looking buildings. Yeah. Let's move on. Anyway, so yeah, as I said before, I struggled way too long with these chandeliers. Just because I wanted them to be huge. In the end, I figured it out and I forgot to record it. Yes. Like, I'm looking at the footage and I just see the... Oh, wait. And before you ask, no, this time I didn't overlook footage. I basically just spent probably too much time on the building, or the building of the chandelier. That was just like, yeah, I've got so much more to do. I'm not going to record it. And you might see them in the after view video, or after video views. Which, yeah, I want to quickly comment on that, because in the last after video views, I saw there was a little bit of like a hang up or lag. And I don't know why, because the footage is completely smooth, so it might be something in the rendering of the video that just makes it hang up. I don't know what it is, and I will try to figure it out. Especially with, well, this sort of mega project, as I would call it. I want to make those after video views smooth. say after video views 5 times fast. But yeah, the lower terrace or balcony was actually because I figured out that, oh wait, the higher balcony doesn't give you a view of the actual hanging gondolas. Or you know what I mean. So yeah, you can actually see the hanging gondolas, or actually inside of the hanging gondolas, from the lower balcony. The higher balcony, maybe for other airships. I just didn't want to destroy it afterwards. And yes, I did add a little bit of like a slope to the roof. Or can you still call this a canopy? I don't think so. I think you can call this like literally, I just had the name for it, but it just slipped my mind, like usually with names. But yeah, I just added that slope just because I just thought, if rain gets stuck in those, like, well, corners of the arches, it needs to have a way to get out. Also, that's one thing that I'm thinking about when like bringing light into the building, because as I said before, I need to basically break up the roof to allow for windows in the roof. But then I'm also thinking, if I add rain, or just make it rain in Kayan Al-Bashar, which is probably a rare thing, but if I do that, then the building is soaked. Because yeah, open wooden windows don't provide much defense against rain. I mean, they could probably have like some kind of shutters to close them, but with the roof, I'm still figuring out how to do that. Again, this is why I wanted stained glass. Is this video going to be a complete ramble on stained glass? I think by now it is. But this is the last thing that we're going to do for today actually, which is make doors. Yeah, I wanted to have doors so that they could actually close this off if there's like nothing, you know, coming or entering. And yes, they are the same style as the other windows, so they are just open woodwork doors. And well, they are huge, of course, like everything in this building so far is. I really like actually that all the windows are just oversized. And then I was really sad that I found out that just a lot of like the windows just don't give in that lot of light, or that much of light. Like, I was really hoping to have like a very light and bright station, but now I need to know, or now I need to figure out, alright, I need to break up the roof. I mean, it also is going to make the dome more interesting, or the domes. I don't know if I will add one or multiple. Probably one large one and then multiple smaller ones. The latticework or woodwork on these windows aren't rounded. They are actually star-shaped, which is actually, I think, a common shape in patterns when it comes to Islamic architecture, to have like the stars. Because, say it if I'm wrong, but I basically watched a few videos or documentaries on like Islamic architecture, especially those patterns, but usually they take like a circle and then just divide it into multiple like cake pieces, I would say it. If you look at the patterns, if you make a circle around it and then, you know, use the lines, you usually end up with some kind of star shape. And that's basically what I used here. And is it insane? Yes. Is it a lot more open than all the other windows? Also yes. Because, yeah, the other windows don't let in enough light, actually. But also, later on it was fun to figure out, well, as you can see, I'm removing a lot of pieces that stick out of the actual door. Because, of course, if this ride works, then those doors need to be open. And actually, this is another thing that I would really like, is to have more moving pieces. Let's just say I want all the pieces. I think you guys can agree, we want all the pieces. We want all the animals. But mostly we want stained glass. Yeah, I can't stop now about the stained glass. I just really want that. But yeah, again, back to the star shapes. As you can see, you can basically draw a circle around one of these and just, you know, the lines are always like in some way going through the middle or around the middle and make up a star shape. Again, if I'm wrong with like that being a very common pattern or just type of pattern in Islamic architecture, please do let me know. But I really like it. Also, it looks a lot more elegant than the rest of the lattice pieces or woodwork pieces that I've used so far. And it actually lets in light. Like, it was so just sad to see, like, I've spent so much time on that and it doesn't let in any light. I mean, in the end, I actually do place a quick roof for the after video views. A really quick one, so that's why I didn't include it into the video. It's really just basically a mock-up of how the roof might look. But I'm actually, like, I was really sad that the windows don't let in any lights, but then when I saw like what kind of like patterns I can form by breaking up the roof, in the end I was really happy with that. Also, I'm going to shoot this idea down, but yeah, talking about that dome, I originally thought to make the dome be able to open and to have an airship inside. I don't know where that idea came from, but it's not going to work, obviously, because then the dome is completely enclosed and I actually want to make the dome visible from the inside. And I actually also had to look up, actually I'm going to stop myself there, otherwise I'm not going to have anything to talk about in the next video. But yeah, now I'm back to doing some quick woodwork to just finish off the railing so that people don't, you know, actually wander off into the abyss. I don't know if actually there will be any lands beneath this, so it might be the abyss beneath this. And yes, I have no idea what I'm going to do with like the actual ground of Kayan Al-Bashar. Like right now it's a desert. I might turn it into a sea. Or just some kind of maybe canyon or something. Kayan Al-Bashar had to float up from somewhere. So maybe a canyon. Quickly just finishing this off and I actually already start working for the next episode. It's almost certain that that will go up Sunday. And then we might finish the building or at least do the final video on the building next Sunday. So yeah, the anniversary week became the anniversary weeks. Also, I quickly need to talk about this because I forgot it actually in the last video. Which is, well, I put up a question of like, what do you guys want to see? And one of the answers was a face reveal, like a quick, let's say 1 second face reveal. Probably not going to go with that because besides, you know, having a face to attach to the voice you guys are hearing, I really like the idea that you guys just imagine a squirrel, like an actual squirrel behind the mic. So yeah, and also I don't think it will add much value, but besides being like a clickbait video, which I generally want to try and stay away from. Yeah, maybe next year. Next anniversary I will reveal my face. Not to say that I'm hiding my face, I think Alia certainly does. But anyway, that's going to be it. That was just a quick little thing to drop in there, but that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more or just enjoyed the video. And I wish you all an amazing day. And don't forget to say how your day is. Yeah, I'm probably going to ask you the meaning of life in the next video. But anyways, have an amazing day guys, and bye bye.